Halloween is a time for scary pranks, candy, and of course, watching creepy, spooky, and sometimes downright terrifying films. Since Halloween 2017 is right around the corner, we here at Unexplained Possibilities thought it would be fun to make a list of must-see films for Halloween. So, dim the lights, have some candy in hand, and remember, this is all purely fun and opinion. With that said, I'm Melvin the Crimson Taurus, and this is Unexplained Possibilities Must-See Movies for Halloween. So, not all of us are single bachelors who happen to be the king of their domain. Some of us have a spouse and kids. So, while you may like a crazy slasher film, it wouldn't be very kid appropriate now, would it? Luckily for you, there are some great kid-friendly Halloween movies that adults will enjoy just as much. And I'm about to share with you some of them right now. First up is ScoobyDoo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Every year, Dracula invites monsters from classic Hollywood monster movies, including Frankenstein and His Bride, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Swamp Thing, and more, to take part in the Monster Road Rally Race. The winner of the race receives the Monster of the Year trophy. This year, however, one of the contestants, Wolfie the Werewolf, decides not to participate. This, of course, has potential to throw everything off. So, what's a blood-sucking vampire to do? Well, you find a replacement for the missing participant. The replacement being Shaggy. Dracula has his henchman chain Shaggy into a werewolf to force him to compete in that year's Monster Road Rally Race. While Shaggy is scared witless and doesn't want to compete, he finds that Dracula forces his hand by telling him that the only way for Shaggy to turn back to normal is with the cure, and the only way to get the cure is to win the race. With no other choice, Shaggy enters the race. He's joined by ScoobyDoo, Scrappy-Doo, and his girlfriend Googie as they all try to figure out how to survive and ultimately win a race on a terrifying track against some of the most fearsome monsters in existence and get Shaggy back to normal. Here's a kid-friendly classic that I suspect adults will enjoy just as much as the kids. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So, what happens when everyone's favorite lovable loser, Charlie Brown and gang, goes trick-or-treating? Silliness, that's what. While Linus sits in the pumpkin patch awaiting the Great Pumpkin's arrival, Snoopy begins his search for the Red Baron in hopes of shooting him down. And Charlie Brown's trick-or-treating isn't going exactly to plan. So, will Linus finally meet the Great Pumpkin? Will Snoopy shoot down the Red Baron? And will Charlie Brown finally get some candy? You'll just have to watch and find out. For this next kid-friendly film, I hope you're a fan of stop motion, because that's exactly what this film is. Of course, I'm talking about Coraline. While at first glance, Coraline may seem like nothing too special, but if you keep watching, you'll see why it's not only a great movie, but one fit for Halloween. Let me ask you, sometimes do you find yourself bored with life? Are you annoyed with people and tired of never getting your way? For those of you who said yes, know that you have something in common with the title character, Coraline. So, what if you were to discover a door to another world? A world where you can do as you please. Rules go out the window. You have what you believe is total freedom. Now, what if the other world had a secret of its own to hide? Over the course of Coraline's adventure, she learns that there are no shortcuts and easy ways, and oftentimes what we want isn't what we need, which is a great lesson to teach kids, I think. So if you decide to watch Coraline, be prepared for beautiful visuals, a dark adventure, and a soon-to-be fear of button-eyed dolls. Rounding out the kid-friendly Halloween movies is perhaps one of the best Halloween movies of all time, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Of course, I'm talking about Hocus Pocus. Halloween, 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts. The Sanderson sisters, Winifred, Sarah, and Mary, are witches who cast spells on children to absorb their youth and regain their own, killing the children in the process. Finding out, the townsfolk of Salem capture and hang the witches, but Winifred's spellbook casts a curse that will resurrect the witches if certain conditions are met. 300 years later, on Halloween, the witches come back to life thanks to a Los Angeles native now living in Salem named Max. Fully understanding the evils he released back into the world, Max must come up with a way to stop them. With only his sister Danny, a girl from his class, Allison, and an immortal black cat named Binks, Max sets off on an adventure during the Halloween night to stop the Sanderson sisters before they gather all the children and take their youth. Hocus Pocus is one of the best kid-friendly Halloween movies around, and it's one the entire family will enjoy. So let's say you don't have kids, but you're not really into the whole horror slasher Halloween thing. You prefer a bit of comedy. Well, this next set of horror comedy Halloween movies will work perfectly for you. Zombies are all the rage right now, and I have no clue why that is. However, one great zombie movie perfect for Halloween that doesn't take itself overly serious is Shaun of the Dead. So, the zombie apocalypse breaks out. What do you do? Most likely you'll get weapons, food, water, things you need for survival. Shaun, however, an electronic salesman with no direction in life, has different plans. When the zombie apocalypse starts, Shaun, for whatever reason, decides it would be best to travel across town in the zombie-infested streets and battle his way to the Winchester Bar. Will he succeed? And if he does, what does he do next? You'll just have to watch, laugh, and find out. What happens when a strain of mad cow disease turns into mad person disease and finally changes into mad zombie disease? Zombieland is what happens. Much like Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland takes a misfit and puts him in a situation he must overcome. In a world where zombies overrun everything, you'll need to follow the rules, be ready to smash some heads, and have a little fun along the way. Zombieland is a must-watch on Halloween night, especially if you're into great movies that have an awesome comedic overtone with just a pinch of zombification in it. What happens when you mix a zombie baby, a kung fu priest, and a Sumatran rat monkey together? Dead Alive. Dead Alive would be the answer. Dead Alive, also known in some places as Brain Dead, is one of the first zombie horror comedies. While the film was a box office bust, it became a cult classic and is notable for several things. Like the 1987 Evil Dead 2, Dead Alive brought a slapstick type of comedy to the zombie genre. And it also holds the honor of being one of the bloodiest movies of all time. But the real kicker is this: it was directed by Peter Jackson. Yes, the Lord of the Rings director. That Peter Jackson. Notice he does not speak about this movie. Saying that though, as weird as this film is, it has its moments and it's definitely a fun film to watch on Halloween. So, if you want to be freaked out while laughing, Dead Alive is for you. Now, I think everyone would agree that some of the best movies to watch on Halloween are slasher films. While slasher films are currently overdone and have grown to be predictable over the last few years, there are some that still stands the test of time and should always be watched on Halloween. While I consider the fear of dolls a rather irrational fear, if this doll was around, then it would be understandable. Of course, I'm talking about the good guy doll known as Chucky from Child's Play. When a wanted murderer who practices voodoo puts his soul into a child's doll, what could possibly go wrong? Many things, apparently. Trapped in the doll, Charles Lee Ray finds himself in the care of a young boy named Andy. Realizing he can steal Andy's body and regain his youth and live his life over again, Charles becomes overjoyed. All he has to do now is just play the part of Chucky until the time is right to make a switch. And if anyone were to get in his way, he'll just kill them. Child's Play is most likely responsible for millions being afraid of dolls, but also responsible for having one of the most recognizable and popular slasher franchises. Child's Play has spawned 6 sequels, and while not all of them are good, at least the first 3 films are must-see on Halloween. Another classic slasher film that is a must-watch on Halloween is Friday the 13th. This franchise is so huge it spawned 11 sequels and a 2009 remake. Jason Voorhees, the man behind the hockey mask, loved his mother very much. So much so that even beyond the grave, she has a hold on him. Jason protects Camp Crystal Lake from what he considers intruders in some of the most violent of ways possible. Jason doesn't sleep, eat, show emotions, and is seemingly invulnerable. Friday the 13th is very notable for having some of the most intense and creative deaths in all of the slasher genre. Not to mention the scares that come along with them. This is not a film for the squeamish, but it is perfect for Halloween. When you hear the name Leatherface, what comes to mind? Is it a large, ugly, chainsaw-wielding man? If so, then you'd be right. Leatherface is the mentally disabled killer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, a franchise that spans 8 films. While the Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't have any supernatural properties to it like other slashers on the list, it very much holds its own. Leatherface is quite literally a psycho killer. He has no real reason for doing what he's doing other than he's mentally damaged. The reasons to watch these films is to see who his victims are and who will escape from them. Makes for a perfect Halloween night viewing. Everyone has to sleep, and everyone dreams. And those dreams could lead to your demise if Freddy has his way. The supernatural slasher, A Nightmare on Elm Street, isn't just a classic, but it's the reason why many sleep with the lights on at night. Freddy Krueger is a name that many know and even more enjoy. The films follow victims and potential victims of the child killer, Freddy Krueger. Freddy confronts his victims in the most vulnerable place of all, their dreams. How does one fight back against an entity that can't be fought physically? Is there even a way to get rid of Freddy Krueger? Well, if you want those answers, you'll have to watch the movies. Now, A Nightmare on Elm Street is a franchise like most other slashers that has spawned 8 sequels and was remade in 2010. This franchise is perfect to watch on Halloween night, right before heading to bed. That's a surefire way to meet Freddy in the dream world, don't you think? Finally, you know we can't have a list of must-see Halloween films without mentioning Michael Myers. That's right, the film Halloween is a must-watch on Halloween. Go figure. Halloween is a 10-part franchise, including its remake and sequel to the remake. This classic movie put into place many tropes commonly seen today in modern slasher films. Michael Myers is obsessed with killing his family, and like Jason, he seems to be virtually invulnerable. His weapon of choice is a very large and sharp kitchen knife. He will stop at nothing to reach his goals and kill anyone who gets in his way. The film is a must-watch on Halloween, not only for its namesake, but because it put into place what so many other slasher films do now. And how can you not like Michael's creepy yet very memorable theme? Now we've come to the final part of the list. This is for those who prefer more ghostly types of scares and less gory and slashing. Do you ever feel you're being watched? That was the feeling most felt all throughout Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is a fairly young franchise that's going strong, spawning 5 main titles and 2 spin-offs, and an alleged reboot is in the works. Paranormal Activity uses the found footage style, and it works perfectly. The jump scares, the tension, the atmosphere, it's all put together nicely. This is the perfect movie to watch on Halloween night with a significant other. The scares will have them jumping in your arms. Just don't blow it by screaming and jumping yourself. Let's say a very rich but recluse family member of yours passes away and leaves you with a giant mansion. You decide to move in with your family. You see it as a new start. So, the day of the move, you see some weird looking levers and buttons, and you mess with them. Well, now you're trapped in the mansion. Clear walls with Latin written on them are lowering and rising all over the place, and as time ticks, you find out that very angry evil spirits have been released and they want to kill you. That is 13 Ghosts, which is a very much overlooked and forgotten gem. Unlike other paranormal films, we find out the motive behind the ghosts and how and why everything came to be. This is also one of the rare acting roles of Tony Shalhoub outside of Monk and Men in Black. This movie is really special. It will draw you in, freak you out, and leave you with bad dreams. Quite perfect for a film to watch on Halloween. Don't you agree? Revenge from Beyond the Grave, A Clueless Foreigner, Murder, Forbidden Love, and Jump Scares. Perfect combination for a Halloween movie, and The Grudge has all of that. One of the more interesting things about The Grudge is that it's told from a non-linear perspective, meaning that you, the viewer, has to put all the pieces together themselves. This draws you into the film even more, but be warned, if you're too drawn in, the slightest noise around you will most likely freak you out. So, what is this thing about? Well, The Grudge is about a curse that is created when someone dies with a powerful rage or extreme sorrow in their heart. The person who dies becomes a type of vengeful entity. Those who encounter this ghostly entity die, and the curse is repeated, and it's passed on from victim to victim in an endless growing chain. Unfortunately for exchange student Karen Davis, she has to deal with the grudge. And to make matters even worse, she has no idea what it is and can't find information on it since she doesn't speak Japanese. The final must-see film on Halloween is a legend. It brought in a new era of paranormal films. It has shaped not only film, but pop culture as well. From its iconic music to the unforgettable scene of the head spin of Reagan McNeil. Of course, I'm talking about The Exorcist. This film, at the time of its release, was so scary, people had heart attacks watching. It introduced a more darker and serious tone to the ghostly horror films not seen before it. The film was a smash hit, and it not only spawned 4 sequels, but also a television show which at the time of this recording is still airing on Fox. And it also produced a play. How many horror films accomplish that? What makes The Exorcist even better is the fact it's based off of a true story. The Exorcism of Roland Doe, which took place in the late 1940s. While the effects of the exorcism are dated, the film is still great and it's a must-watch, especially on Halloween. Just be wary if you come across someone by the name of Pazuzu. Otherwise, you might need your own exorcism. And that's our list. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking it out. And if you feel there should be other movies added or some even taken away, feel free to let us know in the comments section down below, or you could tell us on Facebook or Twitter, and those links will be in the description box right under this video. Thanks again for listening, and you all have a safe and fun Halloween.